here's the thing that Travis was good at, is that we were playtesting that when it was still the screen, right? We didn't have the cards yet. He was really good at remembering everybody's unique trait and calling them out on it, because that's the reason why we decided to put the unique trait like on the card so you could see it all the time. Travis was always like, "Ooh, you cussed!" And like, I was like, "Damn it, Travis," because I would forget, and I kept having to take shots that game.
Welcome to the Character Sheet, your home for fantasy and TTRPG news. And today we've got a very special guest. You may know him as one of the heads of Titmouse, the man behind such shows as The Mighty Nein and Legend of Vox Machina. And today we're talking about a very different kind of project. It's the creator of Druggards, Delinquents, and damn it. I always get the second one wrong. I want to say Druggards and not Drunkards. Creator of Drunkards, Druggies and Delinquents. It's Chris Prynoski of Titmouse. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, man. And this is something that we talked about a year ago when it was still on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And
we made super happy.
We made a rogue together. We made Trusty McTrusterson.
That's right.
But for people who have somehow missed a Kickstarter, what is Drunkards, Druggies, Druggies, and Delinquents? The name that I will never get right.
I'll give it.
There we go. Yes, it's literally there and there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and if you have I don't know if it'll show up on here. It's hard to see with these lights. But if you have a black light,
oh nice,
you can make certain inks or black light activated on this.
That's awesome.
On the cards and on the DM screen and stuff like that. But the way it started, right? We do at Titmouse, we do usually like a jokey, stupid client gift every year. And one year, about 3 years ago, it's like, I want to do like a Game Master screen as our client gift. We got Skinner and Heather. Skinner, who did this awesome piece of art.
The art's so good.
And Heather Mahler to do, this one, which is like evocative of like first edition DM screens to do the screen. And then we're like, well, we can't just send it out blank. Like we should we need to put something on the back. And it's like, what do? We do a joke. And it's like, let's do like a kind of fake drinking game as a novelty. I didn't think anybody would ever play it, right? So Alexei Shea, who works as a creative director at Titmouse, he had done game design before. So we quickly put this game together and kind of sent it out thinking like nobody's ever going to play this. They're just going to look at it and get the joke. And we wrote it in really like verbose, like Gary Gygax-esque, like technical language and stuff like that. So like, the people who know what this is are going to laugh, and like everybody else is going to be like, well, it looks cool. I don't know what it is. It turns out a bunch of people actually played it and they were like, this is good. And Luke Gygax was actually the guy who was like, you should do like a crowdfunding thing for this. I bet people will do it. So we worked on like, all right, let's try and figure this out. And Alexei, he had designed this thing again as a joke, but it actually became a pretty popular game. It was a Colonel Sanders like anime dating sim. It was for KFC. It actually became really popular. People actually played it. I think they still play it. Like it's still live somewhere, So we're like, all right, let's treat this, because his thing was there like that. He was hired to write that as kind of like a joke by an agency, but he treated it really serious. He's like, I want this to actually work for people who want to play it. So we like reset ourselves of like, okay, we're going to make this an actual system that people can actually play. It'll still be a joke, but it should be able to hold water, So we play tested it a bunch of times, like 20 or 30 times, and we figured out some stuff. Initially, we wanted all the rules to be on these two screens, and they are, but we were like, it's too hard to just have it on the screen. So we decided to do all these giant cards, with the stats really big and easy to read, with art you can look at. It also tapped into one of our core strengths, which is art. And we know a bunch of famous, weird artists. And we wanted the aesthetic to be this kind of like first edition looking, AD&D kind of vibe. So it's like, we don't have to be consistent. We can get all these artists to do it in their own styles. They can do like, that's a Dave Cooper right there. There's all sorts of, this is Heather Mahler, they're the Pontificator. That's one of my favorite classes. We'll get to that later.
Yes.
If you ask about classes. But and we still made some mistakes even with all that, but I think it's pretty solid. I'm pretty happy. And if I don't know. I'll wait for your next question because I have some stories about things we changed when we were playtesting.
Oh, nice. I was just going to say, we talked about it really briefly during the Kickstarter, but there's also, I believe, there's rules for playing this, even if you're not one of the people that it's a fantasy role drinking game, but you don't have to drink to enjoy this game.
You don't have to drink to enjoy the game. The thing is basically like if you enjoy drinking or anything that alters your consciousness, that's what this mechanic was originally designed to do. But it's really also designed for messing with your friends, right? So it's like if you've got a group, really what you want to do is there to be some consequence of your armor class and hit points mechanic in this is combined. We call it your tolerance, right? So if anything goes above your tolerance, right? Here's your tolerance right there. Then it triggers your delinquency, right? So you track your delinquency there. So it's like, hey, let's say you have an 8 tolerance, right? So if the monster attacking you rolls a 10, they have beat your tolerance by 2, right? So the idea is you either take 2 drinks, or you don't have to drink. What I don't recommend is chugging an entire drink for this game.
Yes.
It's more like a sip of your drink, a drink, not an entire fucking, beer or whatever, or else you'll get way too drunk playing this game. Or like a puff on something if that's your thing. Or maybe you want to eat a jalapeno, like a slice of jalapeno, or maybe you want to, take a shot of like lemon juice, or maybe you want to like do push-ups or do jumping jacks instead of doing that, like whatever it is that has a consequence. And then for every instance of that, you mark that off on your delinquency.
No, mechanically, it's like reading through the rules the other day again when I was getting myself re-familiar with it. It's almost reminds me a little bit of almost like the Daggerheart system.
Yeah,
it's got elements of that old school D&D and then elements of Daggerheart. But speaking of that and drinking with friends, you were on the Mighty Nein cocktail launch party just like yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how well-known Titmouse Studios is for having these big setups for all of your RPG games and your stuff in studio. Have you ever wrangled any of the Critical Role cast or any other like fun guest stars into like a game of we'll get it right this time, Drunkards, Druggies, and Delinquents?
Yeah, well, Travis was one of the guys who playtested with us in this very room here, which this is one of the
great room for it.
RPG. It's inside of a van. It's like kind of like the TARDIS, right? Where you come in and it's bigger than a van, and doors, and then you can kind of see this side of the room. We got big old game table that the leaves come out, so you can build a bunch of terrain under it and whatnot. And it's it's definitely something that I made to like feel like a 12-year-old's version of what an adult would live like.
It's amazing. Yeah, and so did you when you were building, like when you were putting this all together, like it started out as kind of like a joke pitch to a client, did you take, as it became more and more serious, did you take like any lessons from now this like 5 or 6 year relationship you've had with Critical Role and kind of like take some of those ideas and put them in there? Because like we said, it feels like a little bit of Daggerheart in there. It's got some very funny like storytelling elements that feel like they would fit right in there. Is it, or is this just sort of a product of your own mind?
I think it was just adjacent. I didn't really think about that stuff. And actually Daggerheart, I hadn't even played Daggerheart at the time we were first developing this game. So, I think it was just, great minds think alike or something. I don't know, like an obvious thing, but it is, it's a very light system. And it's definitely designed. This is designed for a one shot. It's designed for like an hour, maybe a 2-hour game if you're really into it, and not for like a very long campaign. Now, you certainly could do a campaign in this, but I don't know. You might feel really bad at the end of that.
Your liver might not survive.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's really, I think the biggest difference in the gameplay of this is there's not one game master throughout the game. It's like it's much more set up for an entry-level person who's less familiar. If you are familiar with TTRPGs, you're going to get it immediately. If you're not, it's kind of set up for someone who's more familiar with board games to like understand where it's like, hey, the drunken master responsibilities go around the table. And once one round is over, it's the next person's turn to run the monsters. And it's basically set up like a meat grinder with a lot of opportunity for RP, which like one of the things I said I was going to talk about, my favorite character class, which we've got a bunch of different like, affinities. Like there's the beer affinities, the booze affinities, the weed affinities, and then there's 3 affinities that have their own, like, that aren't grouped, which the pontificator is one of them. The pontificator's affinity is conversation, right? And I love this worked out really well in the playtest. If you have the right player, right, the pontificator's unique trait is you must constantly perform a monologue narrating every game moment in great detail, or drink if you are caught being quiet. So that really facilitates, this kind of like heavy RP that, like, depending on the groups, like some of the groups we ran with were a little bit more murder hobo-y, where it just was like, it was a straight meat grinder. It was like, how many people can we kill? And most of the RP was around describing how brutally they killed somebody. But then some of the groups were heavy into RP. And that's where I think you can get these sessions that go 2 hours and stuff, because you're having fun with your friends and you're RPing your characters, which you can, in the basic edition, it tells you how to roll up a character with your character record. And we have the character classes all on these big cards, so you can keep that next to you. And we've got 2 of each class, so 2 people can play the same class if you want to. But what was my point? Oh yeah, we did the big cards. Oh yeah, and then we did. If you really want to get a quick start, right? If you don't want to roll up your character and come up with a character, in the deluxe edition, we have a bunch of pre-rolls, right? So the characters are all rolled up for you, complete with backstory and character art and name. So you can just jump right in if you want to, like, not have any setup. If you don't want to deal with any version of a session 0, which is session 0 of this is not long. It's like 10 minutes ahead of the game, rolling up your guys. But if you don't even want to do that, you can jump right in with the pre-rolls.
Oh, that's amazing. And then there's also one of my favorite parts about it, besides the fun classes, of course, like the monsters. And there's also, you include some, I think it's like 10 create your own monster cards.
Yeah, exactly.
In your playtesting, is there like a create your own monster that like sticks out to you as like either one that was like so good that you wanted to put in the game, or one that like maybe even did make it into the game after playtesting?
No, because since we created our monsters, we didn't create any of our own monsters for the playtest, because we had already created the monsters. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. And one of the ideas, like, if this catches on in any way, if people like this game, probably our future expansion packs would be like monster packs, items, equipment, and like player classes in that order, probably. Because the system for monsters, and initially we were thinking this might be roll a D20. So we initially came up with 20 monsters. You could roll for 20 different monsters, but we're like, you know what? Also, 12 is my favorite number. But if it was a D12 system, and we got the biggest honking D12 get made on this thing, you can then roll. We can mix it up a little bit. Like if you roll on the chart, every monster has a number, right? So here's a purple booze here. Art was done by Errol Otis on that one. So if you roll a 4, right, on your D12, you as the drunken master could pick either a purple booze or a Coke mirror for that. So if you end up rolling the same number like close together, you can mix it up. So it's like, you don't have to fight the same monster twice in a row, or you could double down and have them just keep coming. And there's also ones where, you roll, like if you roll a 12, you roll for 2 additional monsters beyond. So these can really stack, because in your gameplay, it's all based around this adventure record right here. So the initial drunken master will set the stage. They can use, if they want, another, for a quick start, our drunken masters guides, where you can roll for all different kinds of scenarios, like, where the adventure begins, what brings us together, setting the stage. So you can be like, all right, where does our adventure begin? And I rolled a 6. That is inside of a cursed tomb. What brings us together? Number 7, awoke here, not sure how we arrived. So you can get right to it if you don't want to, or you can like come up with this thing. But what's really different. You know, in a lot of TTRPGs, I'm sorry, so you'd write the monster down, and then you track its hit points, and then if the party kills the monster goes first. That's another thing we found in gameplay. If you let the players go first, they almost always kill the monster in the first round. Monster never gets to attack. So you start with the monster, he attacks, you try to kill, maybe you don't kill the monster, you roll for another one. They can stack. You can get to like where you have like 5 or 6 monsters going on, and that makes it really crazy, really bonkers, right? Depending on your party, you know, we're big into we're big into like rule 0 or rule of cool. So it's like anything in this thing, like tune it to your table, however you want to do it. But for the characters, man, I'm getting really off track with what I want to say. So many things in our we have allocated, but that's what I was saying. So the thing that's so different about this and other games is you generally have one game master, right? With this, like more like a board game, your drunken master responsibilities go around the table. So one person rolls up the monsters, you do a round of combat, you do your RP, you do your whatever fun stuff you want to talk about. Then it goes over to the next person on the table. They then run the monsters. They run the session. But what we found in playtesting, it's much more like an improv session than even any other kind of TTRPG, because the way that improv happens in a traditional TTRPG is you have your one game master and players. So the one game master is controlling the story and your players are reacting to it. In this game, it's almost more like, you know, an episode of Whose Line Is It Anyway, where your drunken master passes to the next person. They can then change what happens in the story. You know, they could be like, hey, a crazy portal opens up in the wall and a van drives in and the door opens and magic smoke comes out. And who comes out of the van? And then they roll it and it's Levin. And that means a bloodshot comes out. And, you know, so you can change the setting. You can change the thing. You can roll in the drunken master's guide, add a new thing. So it's a game that's designed to create chaos. You know, it's not one for a slow and steady story where you're gonna solve the mystery of the plot. It's definitely you don't know what's gonna happen next. Is this kind of game?
That's amazing. And then also, I mean, it's Titmouse, so I have to ask you, like, and we saw some, but like we've seen some amazing bits of it so far. Is there a piece of artwork you made for this that's just like become one of your favorites? I know it's probably like asking to pick one of your favorite kids, but like, is there one that just stands out?
We did a lot of stuff in the, you know, like we had a lot. I'm so happy because one of our strengths at Titmouse is we know a lot of cool, famous artists, right? We get a lot of, you know, like this one is, you know, Wizard of Barge. Such a great, you know, I'm wearing actually one of his shirts, Wizard of Barge.
Oh,
shirts,
yeah.
Right?
Nice.
Yeah, he does a lot of D&D. He actually did an official D&D and official Magic collection. You know, Matt Fury, who you might know as the guy who originally did Pepe the Frog, who it kind of got usurped from him. But or like Ben Edlund, who's a friend of mine for years, who created the Tick. You know, will do all these different things. But I got to say, I have to go with this favorite one, right? This is not a character class, although it is a character class, but it's a pre-roll character that we did on the stream, right? If you want the quick start, that Pendleton Ward, creator of Adventure Time, and we did Midnight Gospel with him over here. We just did something called The Elephant for Adult Swim with him and some other creators on this. He drew a whiskey wizard, and during the when we did the live stream where we're coming up with the pre-roll characters, he named the whiskey wizard Chris after me. So nice. Thank you, Penn, for drawing the whiskey wizard after me and naming it after me. And I had a problem with my eyebrow, which is growing back now. I had my eyebrow fall off, so he drew the whiskey wizard with one eyebrow. And they have one eyebrow.
That's awesome. And purely because I have to know, I'm so curious. When you played with Travis, was he more the murder hobo type, or did he go for the big RP plays?
You know, that was an incredibly chaotic table. It was so, we were also still, you know, we were playtesting. So there was a lot of stopping and starting, like, wait, how does this work? I'm trying to remember because it was Travis. It was Travis, Stefan Picorni, Elisa Teague, Jason Charles Miller. Fucking, it was a lot of like that play session was a lot of like heavy hitters in the TTRPG world. So I feel like that session this is not the most fun answer, was so professional because they were all friends. They were actually trying to help me figure out how to do the game, so there was a lot of like shooting, stopping and starting. We're also shooting a trailer for the crowdfunding thing. So that game session, I'm trying to even remember what Travis played. Oh, here's the thing that Travis was good at, because that we were playtesting that when it was still the screen, right? We didn't have the cards yet. He was really good at remembering everybody's unique trait and calling them out on it, because that's the reason why we decided to put the unique trait like on the card so you could see it all the time. Because there was one, what was that? I was playing the one. All right, let me see. Was it the tequila din, right? Because I was drinking tequila, right? And I was playing the tequila din. So the unique trait of the tequila din is take a shot every time you cuss or take one of the gods' names in vain. So I'm like not always good at like censoring my cursing at these games. So Travis was always like, "Ooh, you cussed," and like I was like, "Damn it, Travis," because I would forget, and I kept having to take shots in that game. So he's really good at like policing and making sure everybody, because I think there's the traditional TTRPG part of this game, but there's also the drinking game aspect that is basically the messing with your friends part. And if anybody's good at messing with his friends, it's Travis.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, man. So we've got you've got, I think, both the core rule box and then the expansion.
Yeah. We definitely misnamed it. I would make it clear to everybody. The deluxe edition is a box that comes with this box and the basic set. It does not work on its own. So
right.
It comes with both,
Yeah, like this fella.
Yeah. It's got gold on it. Todd James did the art for that.
Some of the art in here is amazing.
Yeah, and that screen I really like. He did it all in markers, right? So this one, it is the same information on the back as the Skinner screen, but I found it's really helpful. He did this in real life with markers. I mean, not this one. This is printed.
Incredible.
No one, but it is kind of. I do have to say, we didn't design it this way, but it's kind of convenient to have two of the monster screens around at the table, especially if you're in a big group, because you could have one at one end and one at the other. You don't have to shuffle through the deck to find the number of every monster, So it's I do recommend, not only because I'm trying to sell all these things, but just for gameplay, it's cool to get both, because then you get the pre-rolls, you get the extra screen, and you get a bunch of fun stuff in there, stupid stuff. Get this dice tray. It's a pretty good one.
That is a cool dice tray. And well, speaking of selling them, like if they missed out on the Kickstarter, where can people find it now?
Oh, you can go to titmousestuff.com, titmousestuff.com, and you'll be able to find it on there, as well as a bunch of other stuff. If you like Titmouse stuff, then keep saying the word stuff.
Right, guys. So if you want to check out Drunkards, Druggies, and Delinquents, go over to titmousestuff.com. I got it right. To be fair, I'm cheating. I'm staring at the box this time to make sure I got right a full half of the time. But Chris, thank you so much for joining us. We always love talking to you. Guys, check out the game. It's incredibly fun. And we'll be back with more TTRPG and fantasy news coverage tomorrow. And Chris, thank you again.
Thank you so much.